Hi, I had promised all of you that I would go through the UFLI lesson plan template with you and talk more about evidence of explicit instruction and also show you what it looked like on the UFLI toolbox. So I apologize that my screen is split and a little cluttered, but I wanted to be able to go back and forth between the lesson plan template from UFLI and where you could pull up the slides and see what they look like. When I am doing a UFLI lesson at my building, this page is always in my manual, and then I go over to the UFLI Foundation's website, and when I go to their toolbox, I can find the matching lesson for this, and I can choose to pull it up along with some of the other materials, such as the slideshow. There are other materials there for you to use to support your instruction. There's a decodable passage, a home practice sheet, and there's also let me stretch my screen here, a roll and read for every lesson. I'm just going to go through the typical lesson components with you today to see how they relate to each other and are evidence of explicit instruction. So you're always going to be forced to make a copy. But then once I get in there, I can go into, I'm not going to go into presentation format because it'll mess up my split screen here, but I usually start right here and show the kids the schedule for the day. I know that on day one, I'm going to need to do the phonemic awareness part of the lesson plan, the visual drill, which is asking them to decode, the auditory drill, which is asking them to encode or spell, the blending drill, which is asking them to do decoding. All of this section of the lesson plan is interleaved practice. That means that it is taking all the old skills that they've learned and putting them together to review, or what I tell the kids, warm up before we learn our new concept for the day. So when I do phonemic awareness, right now, the phonemic awareness piece is me laying the foundation for the skill we're going to be working on this week. You'll notice that all of the words include the new concept, which is SH. So when I do it for the kids, I say the sounds and I want them to blend. That gets at the decoding piece. And over here, I say the word and I ask them to segment it, which helps them not only with decoding, but encoding when they go to write the word. When I go down to, it always will check it off that we finished that piece. This is just the title page for the visual drill. And then the visual drill is a review of skills they've already learned. So the opportunity for explicit instruction really comes if there's a confusion. When you're doing this with your students and you're asking them to say each sound like s. If you feel like there's a confusion there or not many kids are participating, this is a great opportunity to pause the lesson and do a quick bit of review or explicit instruction on that sound. Once you finish the visual drill, you then move into the auditory drill, and you'll see that that slide is blank. The auditory drill is when students have dry erase boards or notebooks, and they are recording the sounds that you dictate. Some teachers, if they're in a hurry and they don't have time to pull materials out, they'll ask them to just write it on the carpet or air write it. I like for them to actually write it on a dry erase board or in their notebook so we can also practice handwriting at the same time. Again, this is review, so explicit instruction really comes in if there are confusions or there are students who are struggling. Also, this part of the lesson is a great opportunity to do a quick spot check. Which kids are able to record the sounds quickly? which kids are struggling or need support that you might just want to make a mental note of or write down on a post-it that you might want to pull over in a quick small group. The next piece is our blending drill. And in the blending drill, you have to go back into UFLI and go to their resources page and go to their virtual blending board, which I'm having a hard time pulling up right now. Oh, there we go. Their virtual blending board. And UFLI does make it really user-friendly for you. Over here, these are the letters you are going to need for the blending drill. The blending drill is going to be a review of everything you've learned so far. So, when I get this set up before I do the lesson with my students, I just go through and I just want to choose the letters that we're going to use in the lesson that week. Or that day, I apologize. So I just quickly click on those ones so that I can make the blending drill fast and efficient, and I keep that perky pace that Anita Archer is always talking about with us. I'm going to go ahead and pick the different pieces here. Okay, then I have them. The blending drill is the opportunity for students to review previously learned skills. So I can start with the first word. I ask them to read it. Then I just make a quick shift, ask them to read that, ask them to read that. And this is like creating a word chain or a word ladder. This is also an opportunity to just do a quick check with your students. Are there some kids who aren't participating? Are there some kids who are struggling to do it? This is another opportunity for just some informal assessing to see how they're doing with it and if they're going to need some extra support one-on-one or in a small group. I'm not going to go through all the words, but typically you would go through this and then I would go back to my slideshow. Now I'm went through the blending drill. The kids like to see that we've checked each thing off, and I usually will do a very dramatic with them where they take their fingers and do a big check mark in the air that we're done with that part. Then we get into the new concept. The new concept is where that explicit instruction comes in strong for us, and the rest of the pieces of the lesson really get into very explicit instruction. So this part right here is very scripted on your lesson plan. Very scripted. Once you get used to it and you know what the rules are and about the sound, you don't have to follow the script as explicitly, but when you're first teaching UFLI, you probably want to follow as much as you can. So the slides are going to take you through this. When two sounds come together, or when two consonants come together, they make one sound. For example, when we talked about C and K came together at the end of a word and they made one sound. So they're reviewing what they already know, but then connecting it to what they're going to learn. Then they show us that when S and H are by themselves, they make this or sound. But when we put them together, they say sh, and it becomes that consonant digraph. Then it's going to walk you through. This is very explicit instruction here. When are we going to see the sh sound? We could see it at the beginning of a word, like ship and shop. And we could also see it at the end of a word, like fish and wish. Then we show the sound wall card with how your mouth should look when you're making the sh sound, which is addressed in the lesson plan right here. Typically then I will have a cutout of this card that we will put and add on the sound wall so the students have reference. We will then quickly just write in the air or write on the carpet with our fingers that sh sound. So we're putting together the sound but also the encoding piece. Then we move into just practicing decoding here. And that's this read part. And this is where we really get into the gradual release model. First, I'm going to show them how to read the words. Then we're going to practice reading them together. I'm not going to really ask them to do anything independently on day one. So we would go through and they would watch me read the very first word, and I would be slow and explicit with it. Sh, ed, shed. Then we would go one by one and practice reading together those words. Then, because UFLI does such a good job of going back and forth between reading and spelling, they're always doing that. Reading, spelling, reading, spelling, reading, reading, and now we're going to get into that spelling piece. They really do a good job of emphasizing and acknowledging the importance of the reciprocal relationship between reading and writing. That's why I love this program so much. Then they would watch me spell this word right here in the I do part. And then we would spell some words together in their notebooks or on dry erase boards. Then we're done with day one. We are done. That's just a quick check. They always like to see that we did it. On day two, even though it's not in the lesson plan here, you are going to review exactly what you did the day before. You're going to see all the explicit instruction that you did from day one. It's just going to be simplified a little bit. Then we're going to get into where we really want the kids to be showing us some things independently. So we're pulling away from the most support to a little less support. In this word work portion, there's several options for you as a teacher. We have magnetic letter trays at our building that we give kids to make words. There is an app on UFLI that you can push out to their iPads where they can make words. You can use dry erase boards for this. You can use chalk and chalkboards, kind of old school, or a lot of kids have word work notebooks where they do this. When you're in this word work piece, this is a time where you are dictating these words and kids are writing them. And you will see that they are just changing by one sound each time. They're either writing them or creating them on the iPad app or with their magnetic letters. This is that gradual release. We were doing a lot together on day one, but now we're moving to where I'm going to watch you try out some things, obviously with some support. After we do our word work, we check that off. Then we move into irregular words. This is an opportunity for review of those irregular words and explicit teaching of those irregular words. Again, UFLI is going to ask you to read those words and discuss what's the tricky part. That's what the heart's for. That's the tricky part of the word. The blue is these are sounds we know. Once you practice reading the words you've already learned, you practice spelling them. Depending on time, teachers will have them air write them. They may have them do them again on a dry erase board with magnetic letter trays, or they might have them do them in their notebook. When we get into the teaching part, I'm very explicitly teaching them the word. A lot of times I'll move out of slideshow mode and cover this up so they can't see it to introduce the word she. And I'll talk about how she has a sound that we can hear and a sound that may not follow the rules. And I ask them, what do you think the word might look like? Sh, e. And then we'll uncover and talk about it. We will then add this card to our irregular word wall, or we call it our heart word wall. After we review them, practice these two, then we practice spelling them again. After that, we get into this page of the manual. Again, we're going to do the reading first. This is very much together in the gradual release model. And then we're going to do some spelling together. When we get to the connected text, I typically will read it to them the first time. Then we will read it together, really making sure we're focused on fluency with accuracy, phrasing, and paying attention to the type of punctuation at the end. After we read the sentences together, we will then go to these dictated sentences. Depending on the grade, we may not get through all 3 dictated sentences in a day. We might do one as a whole group, and then I might do the others in my small groups, or we might do the others as a review on the next day. I dictate the sentence, they write them in their notebooks. We are looking at this point for correct spelling, capitalization, and punctuation, because all of the skills, sounds, irregular words there are things the students have learned. So we are looking for them to apply their knowledge. This is another opportunity for a spot check. How are they doing? Are they able to do this automatically? Are they needing lots of support? Only a little support? This informs your instruction. Finally, you move into a decodable text, which was also something that you can print from the UFLI website. Typically, I do the decodable text on a 3rd day, and we will read it together. Sometimes I will highlight the lines, like this will be blue, this will be yellow, this will be blue, this will be yellow, and we will alternate, like half of the room read the blue, half of the room read the yellow, half read the blue, half read the yellow, switch parts, so that we're really working on fluency. But you can see, because that's the very last thing that we do in the entire UFLI lesson, that we start from the easiest types of skills: phonemic awareness, letters in isolation, reading words in isolation. Then we learn a new skill. We learn the sound in isolation. We practice words in isolation. Then we put several words together. Then we go into sentence form, and the decodable passage is the full text form. It really is a beautiful model of gradual release and gradual expectation for what students are going to do and how they're going to apply this skill. You will see in the manual that there are additional word work chains to work through and other examples of words where the sh sound is at the beginning and the sh sound is at the end. This is more for small group. A lot of our teachers will use this in small group as a warm-up before they do the decodable text or pull out a different decodable text, just to review the skill. You'll see that it starts from the easiest, onset rhyme, to then moving into more of a beginning sound but switching the vowel, then the ending sound, and then putting it all together here. I hope this just helps you understand UFLI a little bit more. And I will tell you, as someone who interviews, helps interview all of the teachers that apply for jobs at our staff, that when they know about UFLI, Hegarty, Rosensky, building knowledge, building units, like you're learning in your L453 class, students who are already aware of a lot of the programs and procedures and routines we're going to follow make them a very attractive candidate to us. So understanding how this works and being able to talk about it, not just at a surface level, really will serve you well as you move into student teaching, getting ready for the praxis, and then getting ready to interview for jobs. As always, reach out if you've got any questions.